when suspicions arose that one of the juveniles, a tool in their evil machinery, had been dipping into their drug stash. The response was nothing short of barbaric. Even hardened criminals in the area were left shocked at the level of violence unleashed. The teen, hospitalized and traumatized, fell victim to the merciless fury of a violent drug mob. In a chillingly familiar gangland tactic, the entire ordeal was filmed, serving as a harrowing warning to anyone thinking of crossing this gang. It soon became clear that the mob responsible for the shocking assault was the Notorious Monkey Gang. This ruthless criminal group, notorious for its brutality and iron-fisted control of the drug trade, has emerged as public enemy number one in Ireland. Who exactly are they, and how did they ascend to the apex of Ireland's criminal hierarchy? This Dublin-based organized crime gang, formerly linked to the infamous Kinahan cartel, has been steadily expanding its operations through a reign of terror marked by extreme violence. Operating in Dublin for nearly 2 decades, the Monkey Gang is a subsection of a wider national criminal gang. It is a closely knit, familial organization with its primary stronghold in the Finglas area of the north side of Dublin. Yet, their tentacles reach far beyond these boundaries, reaching into the darkest corners of Ireland's underworld. They earned their nickname after a massive Garda raid back in 2019. Alongside a staggering haul of weapons, ammunition, and cash, authorities discovered an unlikely captive, a small monkey illegally kept in a cage by some gang members. The haul was discovered when officers swooped 6 properties in Finglas. The firearms were greased and in excellent condition, ready to use. Gardaí believed that they were being stored by the gang on behalf of the Kinahans for its ongoing feud with the Hutches. After the raid, the gang's influence continued to grow in North Dublin's lucrative drug trade. The Monkey Gang thrives on the recruitment of vulnerable youth. Kids, sometimes as young as 13 or 14, are being drawn into the gang by older criminals who don't want to get their hands dirty and who want to be feared in the communities. These young recruits serve as pawns in the drug trade, particularly in Finglas. The teenage lad who was tortured had been working for the Monkey Gang, carving a name for himself in drug dealings. In addition, he was involved in a number of violent incidents and appeared to be an enforcer for the mob. However, his association with the Monkey Gang took a sinister turn when it was revealed that he had taken several €1,000s worth of drugs from their stockpile. The consequence was a relentless and horrific assault, videoed as a grim message to warn anybody who would consider dipping into the gang's funds or crossing them. The nature of this particular assault that this young fella endured was horrific. Obviously, there's been no complaint made in relation to it, which is always the way with gangland crime. Despite relentless efforts by law enforcement, dismantling the Monkey Gang has proven a difficult task. Their organization is very tight-knit, which makes it hard for Gardaí to penetrate them. They are suspected to have been involved in numerous violent incidents, like the attack on criminal Noel Shawnee Boylan, one-time pal of Christy Kinahan, in June 2019. He was shot multiple times outside a little store but escaped with his life. The gang has pushed out other drug dealers in the local area and is now in a position of control in the very lucrative drugs market around the Finglas, into Ballymun, down even into Coolock, as a result of increasing Garda pressure on many criminals that were involved in the Finglas feud. A lot of independent dealers saw a gap in the market and started operating, but the Monkey Gang's ruthless tactics have secured their stranglehold on the business, forcing these dealers to buy their drugs. Over the past decade, Finglas became a stronghold for the Kinahan organization, with a hierarchy that included figures like Ross Browning, Trevor Byrne, and the Gucci Gang. The Monkey Gang, too, had strong ties to the Kinahan cartel, initially buying their drugs from them. A major cash seizure in County Wexford in 2018 showed those ties to the Kinahans, as almost €1 million was discovered in an investigation that was part of a wider investigation into the Kinahan cartel. A senior member of the Monkey Gang, Bernard Garnier Joyce, who is considered the number 2 of the organization, was later convicted for money laundering in relation to that cash and served a 4-year jail sentence. However, the Monkey Gang had never been an actual part of the Kinahan cartel structure. They always had individual ambitions, as opposed to Trevor Byrne and the Gucci gang. Gardaí suspect them to have been long involved in the distribution of firearms to gangs around the country. In addition, their tentacles stretch across international borders, connecting with crime organizations in the UK and Africa. Recent sightings of African criminals at properties linked to the gang underscore their international reach. In recent times, developments indicate a strategic alliance between the Monkey Gang and a Moldovan Spanish outfit, with operations spanning the UK and Ireland. Their business dealings are cloaked under the guise of the equestrian industry, using the movement of horses as a cover for transporting drugs and money. However, the Monkey Gang isn't limited to drug trade alone. For decades, they have been deeply entrenched in the stolen car parts industry, exporting their ill-gotten gains to far-flung destinations like Africa. This highly lucrative venture runs parallel to their drug dealings, expanding their criminal empire. With the now chaotic Gucci gang marginalized and their leader Mr. Flashy living under constant threat, the Monkey Gang has seized the opportunity to expand their influence. Finglas is now firmly under their control, and they've resorted to using social media to peddle their wares. At street level, the gang has been using the likes of Snapchat to deal a wide variety of drugs, particularly cocaine and highly potent cannabis. The social media messages include a mobile phone number and state the drug dealing service is available 24/7. They're offering drugs for prices that are far below the market price, which shows they obviously have huge amounts of products to sell. Their cutthroat prices signal a ruthless intent to dominate the market, putting down their mark and undercutting other drug dealers. A young woman who is related to the suspected leader of the gang is understood to be one of its main drug distributors at a local level. She takes her orders off two brothers, and they are making a lot of money. The Monkey Gang remains one of the top targets of Ireland's Drugs and Organised Crime Bureau. Gardaí have had some successes against the gang, like in October 2022, when it was the subject of 9 Garda raids. The operation led to searches of various locations in which a large amount of stolen property, worth around €30,000, was recovered, and 7 arrests were made, mostly juvenile members of the gang. In November 2018, officers seized €1.5 million in cash in a massive raid in County Meath. That same year, Bernard Joyce and an associate were busted with €220,000 of drug cash in the Netherlands as part of a major operation by heavily armed members of the Dutch police force. The duo spent some time in custody in Holland before being bailed and returned to Ireland. However, the gang's leadership, comprising a select few individuals, remains elusive, pulling the strings from behind the scenes. As Ireland grapples with the menace of the Monkey Gang, the nation watches with bated breath, hoping for the day when this reign of terror will be brought to a decisive end.
In the shadows of Northern Ireland's Lurgan area, in County Armagh, a dark force has emerged. This sinister gang, a recent addition to the criminal landscape, has swiftly become the talk of the town. While seasoned players have long dominated the perilous game, this fairly new player, known as the Firm, has risen rapidly in the past few years, leaving a trail of fear and intrigue in their wake. The gang, a collusion between Irish Republicans and Loyalists on the one hand, and criminal gangs on the other, is heavily involved in drugs, and authorities believe they are connected to several murders. It is regarded as a significant criminal enterprise that is hard to defeat because of their cross-community structures. They are believed to have set up an international network for the supply of drugs, with links to gangsters in England and Spain. Sources suggest its leaders are careful about what types of drugs they deal, in order to avoid backlash from local communities. Instead of supplying highly addictive and deadly drugs like heroin, they focus on recreational substances such as cocaine and cannabis. With dozens of members and a power base in Lurgan, it has emerged as one of the most organized and ruthless cartels operating in the north. According to local sources, the head of the Firm is the son of a former leader of the IRA in North Armagh. The core gang is believed to consist of 40 to 50 members, including both men and women. Delving into the origins of this gang proved to be a daunting task. The media coverage is limited, and concrete details are hard to come by. Yet, amidst the secrecy, a series of disturbing incidents unfolded, revealing the dark underbelly of their operations, making it very clear that the firm is prepared to kill in order to protect its multi-million-pound operation. One such incident was the brazen daylight attack on gangster Jim Carlisle in 2016. He was shot multiple times near a primary school gate while picking up his child, miraculously surviving the attack. Carlisle was involved in a gangland feud with crime boss Hugh McGough, who was later killed along with his wife in 2011. Disturbingly, McGough's wife was Carlisle's aunt, and he even carried her coffin at the funeral. Later, Carlisle and his close gangland associate Malcolm McKeown were charged with the murders. It is said that McKeown, a former member of the Loyalist Volunteer Force, or LVF, with a dark past, owed McGough £13,000, reason for him to plot the double murder. However, a court dropped the charges in 2013, despite DNA evidence linking McKeown to the murder and former criminal associates claiming that Carlisle pulled the trigger. In 2023, Carlisle, who had over 170 convictions, took his life in Marbury prison while on remand for a domestic incident. A couple of years back, Carlisle's gangland associate McKeown already met a tragic end, and here too the involvement of the firm is suspected. McKeown was deeply entrenched in the drug trade of Northern Ireland and ran his own gang. He had a brutal approach, taxing other drug dealers selling on his territory. Once, one of those small-scale dealers, Paul Smith, refused to pay. Armed with a sawn-off shotgun, allegedly provided by McKeown, Jamie McVeigh broke into Smith's house and shot him dead as he sat in his living room. McVeigh was later jailed for 18 years for the murder. In August 2019, McKeown met his end with a hail of gunfire. He was shot 6 times as he sat in his car at a service station. He was found by 2 teenage boys, leaving the community in shock. The investigation revealed a sinister scenario involving a dark blue or black Volkswagen Passat, leading to the arrest of 2 young men within 2 days after the hit. Jake O'Brien and Andrew Martin were the first 2 to be charged for the murder. Despite their denial, the evidence against them is compelling, including DNA traces and surveillance footage. Later, in 2023, 2 more men have been charged with the murder, Stevie Lee Watson and Simon Apsley Smith, each entering not guilty pleas. The case is still ongoing. It was later revealed that just weeks before McKeown's murder, CCTV footage showed 2 men in pig masks appearing on his doorstep. However, McKeown was in jail at the time and couldn't open the door to meet his fate. This was probably the first attempt by the same group to take him out. The following months, investigators started to firmly point fingers at the firm for McKeown's murder, dubbing them the biggest player in North Amar. They found concrete ties between the firm and Drew King, a figure associated with the LVF, and its founder, Billy Wright. Drew, along with his brother Billy, had become significant drug lords in the area. By then, the firm had expanded, counting over 50 members as per detectives' estimates. They controlled areas in County Armagh and parts of Lisbon. People dealing with the gang received drugs, but had to pay for protection. The feud with McKeown began when he tried to tax their drug dealers. What made this situation peculiar was the mix of older members with LVF links and those tied to Republicans, showing an unusual cross-community alliance, uniting under the banner of money and power. The rise of the firm, entangled in Malcolm's legacy, became evident. Their presence loomed large, striking fear into the hearts of the community. Even quite recently, in January 2023, County Armagh had to deal with another chilling murder, that of father of 4, Shane Whitler. Whitler, rumored to be entangled in the drug trade himself, found himself on the wrong side of the firm, owing them a debt he couldn't pay. The night before his death, he received threats, delivered by the merciless enforcers of the firm. Pay up or meet a grisly end. Whitler was phoned by Kevin Conway to come and meet Joshua Cotter and Jake O'Brien, all believed to be members of the firm. After Cotter and O'Brien followed Whitler into an alley, Whitler's fate took a gruesome turn. He was ruthlessly shot in the leg, the back, all the way to his throat, but managed to make his way to Lord Lurgan Park, where he collapsed and died. Due to CCTV footage, the 3 men were arrested and their homes were searched. Investigators found a balaclava, a hoodie, and trousers all stained with gunpowder residue, telling a grim tale of the cold-blooded execution. At that time, O'Brien was on bail in relation to the 2019 murder of McKeown. The case is still ongoing. Meanwhile, John Caldwell, the detective in charge of the investigation, found himself targeted and was shot multiple times in February 2023. However, it's not clear if the firm is behind the attempt, as the new IRA reportedly took responsibility. Following Whitler's death, a disturbing revelation surfaced when a WhatsApp list emerged, bearing the names of 63 persons. Among them is the son of a prominent Republican slain by loyalists and a relative of a Catholic man murdered by the IRA. This sinister list claimed to detail the members of the firm. Last February, the PSNI sprang into action, launching multiple searches that led to the seizure of drugs, firearms, and substantial sums of cash. But the firm's ruthlessness continues. Their methods turn sinister when it comes to debt collection. If the debtor met an untimely end, they would mercilessly target the nearest kin, amplifying the terror they inflicted. In a shocking display of audacity, the firm even ventured into the Kilwilkie estate, allegedly employing Stevie Watson, a notorious sectarian killer charged with the murder of McKeown, as their menacing enforcer. The massive estate, which was once a provisional IRA stronghold, still has elements of dissident Republican organizations who fight the police and can periodically erupt in violence. In the main, it's full of people who are fed up with the drug problem and the pain caused by dealers in their community. These residents feel that Kilwilkie has fallen under the control of the firm. Following the string of violent acts, dissident Republicans are now vowing to shut down the deadly gang. Meetings have been held by senior dissidents in a bid to address the firm's ruthless activities. The battle against the firm rages on, an ongoing saga of violence, fear, and unyielding determination.
In the shadowed corners of Dublin, a notorious gang known as the Family has quietly built an empire, reigning over Ireland's drug trade with an iron fist. While the Kinahan cartel garnered attention and notoriety, the Family seized the opportunity to become the country's #1 drug lords. With ties to Eastern European traffickers and an insatiable hunger for wealth, they now control a multi-million euro operation, pumping drugs into Ireland at an alarming rate. Join us as we delve into the heart of this secretive crime cartel and uncover the astounding story behind the Family's meteoric rise to power. Once upon a time, the Kinahan cartel held sway over Ireland's drug market. But their international ambitions and the recent crackdown on their operations weakened their grip on the local scene. Meanwhile, the Family quietly consolidated their power, capitalizing on the chaos left in the wake of the Kinahan-Hutch feud. With 18 deaths and over 80 gangsters behind bars, the feud is yet another reason the Family's hand is strengthened. With the spotlight on their rivals, the Family established themselves as Ireland's premier heroin suppliers. Their network, stretching from Dublin to Cork, operates like a well-oiled machine, forging alliances with Eastern European drug traffickers to secure a steady flow of drugs into the country. Their routes are completely separate from the routes others, like the Kinahans, are using, and unlike the flamboyant and confrontational Kinahans, the Family prefers to remain in the shadows. Their specialty is heroin, but they have now ventured into the cocaine, ketamine, and MDMA market, and they try their best to avoid the murder side of the drug game. Led by Brian Grendon, a calculated and level-headed criminal mastermind, they learned from the mistakes of their predecessors. Media attention, violence, and feuds are deemed threats to their thriving business, and they meticulously avoid such confrontations. Although suspected of involvement in the murder of Gary Carey, the Family steered clear of open conflict, focusing solely on their relentless pursuit of wealth. The Family's strength lies in its tightly knit inner circle. Brian Grendon and his older brother Philip, both hailing from the Ballyfermot area of West Dublin, form the core of this criminal organization. Alongside a dozen loyal associates scattered across Dublin, they have steadily built their empire over 2 decades. Brian, a high-level criminal with a shrewd business mind, maintains a clear head, abstaining from drug use, while his brother Philip struggles with paranoia and chaos. Exploiting the vulnerabilities of drug addicts, the Family enlists them as a cheap labor force, supplying them with free cocaine and heroin to keep them under their control. This network of addicts serves as a shield, absorbing the brunt of charges during searches while the gang members grow increasingly affluent. Over the years, the Family had several encounters with law enforcement, but these setbacks failed to dampen their ambitions. Brian Grendon is a hands-off guy, reputed to have an acute antennae for surveillance, and is risk-averse. According to reports, his gang uses dozens of disposable cell phones each week that are continually replaced. Gang members are very strict about not discussing their involvement in crime while driving their cars, and even conduct counter-surveillance. In 2001, the then 25-year-old Brian Grendon first came to attention as he was apprehended for possessing nearly €2 million worth of heroin, leading to a lengthy prison sentence. However, upon his release, he wasted no time in re-establishing his criminal operations, rising to become the country's most significant heroin dealer. Philip, on the other hand, found himself in trouble years later in Spain in 2014. He was staying at a hotel in Valencia with 2 suitcases containing €3.8 million worth of cocaine when he got paranoid from noises he heard. Convinced that he was about to get robbed by rivals, he threw a suitcase full of cocaine out of the window. When he went to retrieve it, he lost his keycard and locked himself out. He was then found by the police standing outside his room, holding the cocaine-filled suitcase. This acrimony eventually earned him 7 years in prison. Law enforcement agencies intensified their efforts to dismantle the family's empire. In various raids, substantial amounts of drugs, cash, luxury watches, and high-end vehicles were seized from the gang. Like in 2015, when father of 4 Jason Rowe's house was raided and over €3 million worth of drugs and arms were found. Although Rowe took responsibility, it was clear all illicit goods were in fact controlled by the family. Notable arrests, such as that of Darren Hoey, the gang's main money man, exposed the vast sums of illicit funds flowing through their operation.